Okay, we're going to open up the December 18th Select Board meeting. I'm very pleased tonight to say that we have a couple of young guests who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to great young Boy Scouts from town, Dimitri Haddock and Owen Belknap. They're going to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Alrighty then. Let's see. We've got some manifests to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable manifest from December 18th, 2017, and the payroll manifest of December 19th, 2017.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Right?
So I'll explain for our young guests who are trying to learn about, what goes on at a meeting like this. Basically, what we're looking at and approving are the ways that the town spends money. So the accounts payable manifest is what we pay people who provide services to us. So people who fix cars and, provide salt and stuff like that. And then payroll manifest is what we pay town employees. So what we're doing right now is taking a look at those and approving those expenditures. All good?
Yes.
Okay. Next on the agenda is approving minutes from previous meetings. We have two.
Make a motion to accept the minutes as corrected of December 4th, 2017.
I actually have one more edit that I didn't catch before. Wait.
Let's just take a second.
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, discussion.
Okay. December 4th minutes on line 48. First page, says the new cell phones are very expensive at approximately $6,000, $8,000. Those are the new radio handsets that have the cellular technology integrated.
So radio handsets?
Yeah, or just radios.
Okay.
That's it?
That's all.
Okay, so the motion was as amended?
As amended.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Abstain? Don? Good, abstain, I wasn't here, sorry. I know you don't like it, but that's the way it is. And we have one more, we have a set of non-public.
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the non-public session of November 6th, 2017.
Second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, now, the next thing that we're gonna do is have people who are, who make up different boards and committees in town who represent the select board to provide updates and reports. So, let's start with budget.
I had another commitment that night, that was this past Thursday, but I believe they did the second draft review of this school budget, which has been trimmed down significantly from its original form. But I haven't had a chance to review the latest version.
So, not trimmed, but it's higher than, I believe, the first draft budget.
It's still higher? All right, so I need to read that
So
over.
the transportation bid came in last minute.
Okay, well, that would explain that.
So it's
Okay.
either pretty similar or
Okay.
Okay.
Refresh my memory, the town budget gets presented first draft.
We've already done first draft. Thursday, they have a kind of open discussion about it.
Yep.
And second draft goes third week of January?
Okay.
I believe so.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any questions on budget committee? So no? Planning.
So I wasn't there, but, so the business up on Stage Road up near Route 4, begins with an I,
Ventex.
Inventex, came before the planning board, and I guess there's gonna be a site walk. I guess they're looking to expand, and it's, so there's a setback, question, so, the board is, planning to site walk end of December, beginning of January, timeframe. So,
Did you say Haynes Road?
no, Stage,
Beach.
Stage.
Stage Road, all right.
Okay, anything else?
No meeting the 27th.
Okay, questions on planning? All right. CIP?
We meet Thursday.
Haven't done anything.
We meet this Thursday.
Maybe, yeah, this week.
Okay, all right.
I don't see any major changes coming through from what's already been put out. At the last meeting, we did, indicated that, we thought that the expendable fund should be increased from 5,000 to 10,000.
For,
Well, that's maintenance on the town buildings.
Okay,
There's
okay.
about 16,000 in there now, and we're anticipating some considerable work to be done on the elevator at the library, and when and if the furnace here dies, it's gonna be probably $30,000 to replace it, so we thought moving that from $5,000 to $10,000 would be the expeditious thing to do.
okay, all right. Okay, CIP Marston?
Nothing on Marston right
No,
now.
Marston, other than what was discussed at the last meeting.
Yep.
Okay. That covers it for boards and committees, right? Okay, town administrator?
Let's see, mail, we have mostly noise, but a couple of thank yous and kudos for the police department to share with you. There's one annual review in there. I can pass that around. New ambulance was delivered. Looks pretty sharp. Four-wheel drive, it's in service. They changed everything over from the old bus to the new bus on Friday, and as far as I know, it cleared its inspection. I didn't hear anything to the contrary, so I assume it's fine. One of our cruisers had a run-in with a deer this weekend.
We just got one back.
Yeah. How bad?
Was this the same one, or is this?
No. That would be too lucky. It's actually not horrific. But the things are all made of plastic now, so it's going to take some work. It's out of service. It's
So we're
electronics.
down a vehicle again.
Yeah, the electronics are screwed up. It would be drivable, but for lights and sirens, so.
Where did the deer hit?
Front right corner. Apparently, we missed the first one, but not the second one. And the deer fled the scene unapprehended, so. Can't report on the deer.
APB out on it?
Yeah, no. We're looking for help at the recycling center. We had kind of a plug-in help there, but that's going away, so we're looking for another pair of hands to help out there.
Are you gonna post it?
Yep, it's posted up there, and we'll be posting it here. Holidays are upon us. They fall on Mondays, so not humongous impacts to any town services. Everything will be closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day, but there shouldn't be any other interruptions. We have folks, traveling and going here and there, but everything should be open, and not everybody won't be in at all times, but
will be open as usual. That means that your next scheduled meeting isn't until January 8th, so we have not identified anything that would cause us to try and meet before then at this point. We kind of said, well, maybe we'll need to get together between now and then, but we haven't identified anything yet, so. We can do this later if you want, but I sent you something today on the New Hampshire retirement system.
Right.
Do you want to talk about that as an agenda item, or you want to tackle it now? I can give you the short version of it.
Yeah, I missed that one if you sent it to us today, but go ahead and give us the,
There's a bill in the legislature that, well, let me back up a step. Retirees retirees from the state retirement system, teachers, police, firefighters, can retire and then go back to work, typically for a different employer, collect a pension and, earn a wage or a salary thereafter. Right now, they're capped at 32 hours a week. They can't work more than that and still collect their pension. So there are a number of folks, particularly I know of police in particular, and we have one retiree who's a longtime employee of ours, worked a full career, earns a pension, and works for us 32 hours a week.
and fulfilling an important gap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The legislature is moving a bill through that would cap that, not at 32 hours a week, but at 20 hours a week. Ostensibly, I think it's the stated purpose is to allow people to move up in the ranks. A lot of these senior experienced folks are filling the roles of police chiefs in smaller towns. They folks that want a seasoned officer as chief, but maybe can get away with 32 hours worth of work and, have an effective chief in 32 hours. I think you probably see that same thing in fire departments. So what I've read is that some people are concerned that those folks are blocking others from moving up, younger people in the workforce. I don't know, but I think perhaps the bigger reason is that those retirees aren't contributing, to the pool for future retirees. So they're earning good salaries, but they're not contributing to the pool and backfilling, helping make payments as a full-time 40-hour-a-week person could. So I suspect that is also a motivator, where the retirement system's always struggling to balance its income and expenses. So a number of towns are concerned about it. It would be a pretty significant impact to us. One of our sergeants, who's our lead investigator, would be impacted. I think it's a 2019 implementation, but it would really close the door for a lot of folks to, a lot of towns to use people like that. You can get really capable, seasoned, experienced people. Maybe you can't afford them full-time, but you can get skills that you couldn't get otherwise. I bring that to you in case you want to weigh in with the legislators about it. A couple of our nearby towns are doing that. I know one in particular that has a police chief that, is working 32 hours a week, that they couldn't afford a good chief full-time. So if you want to read what I sent you and let me know if you'd like to weigh in, or if you want to say something now, we can do that. It's not a hot rush. It's still got to get through. I think it's coming out of the Senate committee. It's still got to get through the House and the full Senate. But it was highly recommended by a commission of folks that were looking at the retirement system. But I don't know that they had a small town lens on when they suggested it. You can certainly look down the road and see how we would want to have. We might want to have more people like that, where you can get somebody. We couldn't afford some people with the skills that you can get retirees at, and that's how we depend on it. So,
Thoughts on that, you guys?
I mean, it's happening in, like, the trades as well, we're letting them come back and work so many hours because there's not too many people, like, jumping in saying, I want to do this. I think the law enforcement, even firefighting, the same thing, you know, to get the experience.
Right, we have a very good retirement system in New Hampshire, too,
Yeah.
and both for fire and police. I don't know about the school, I know the school system, the teachers are in it also. They're at a much lower level in the contributions that get put in on their behalf, but still, it's, I was working here when, you know, we had our investigator retired, and then he ended up coming back, and is now our investigator.
Yeah.
Like Chris says, you know, we had to pay him a 40-hour salary and benefits, you know, that it would increase our budget that much more. But we're getting a good bang for our buck from being able to hire a retiree, although he can only work 32 hours a week. And I assume that they're not paying into the system that they're collecting from, but still, they've been in that system 20-plus years, and they've, you know, already paid in their dues. Some people just don't like it, I guess. It was, opinions are different around the state and in the different sizes of the community, so it's a tough call.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, with the, the challenge we have finding people as well, just even like, you know, police and firefighters, we just can't find it. So it's great to be able to have someone like that. On the other hand, is there, I mean, I guess I don't know enough about it to say, is there an impact on the other staff that we have? And if is the argument about not enough money going into the system, is that a legitimate argument?
Well, they're making up for it with increases in the contributions that we have to make.
Right.
I believe it's generally sound, you know, as public retiree pension systems go in the country, New Hampshire's is in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
But there's definitely an impact to that. If we were, you know, we would have to fill, the only way you can fill a lot of these slots is with full-time employees, because it's the only, you know, those skills aren't available on a part-time basis.
Right.
People that have those skills want a full-time position with
Yeah.
full-time pay and
I believe
benefits.
Epping's fire chief is one of those people also.
Right, yeah.
But for a small town like us, it's hard to get those people that want to work here full-time,
Exactly.
Right.
right?
Yeah, you may not need those skills 40 hours a week, you know, in a small town. There just isn't enough. In our case, an investigator, we could probably keep an investigator busy for 40 hours a week, but in some small towns, there are some of those functions that you don't need 40 hours of a fire chief or,
Right.
you know, so.
Or you couldn't afford to, you know, pay
Right.
in benefits.
Yeah.
You might not have that position at all.
Right.
Tony or Charlene, any thoughts?
I think I'd want to look at it a little bit more, but my initial thinking is, you know, to take a position on it. I think the other thing is it's, in some ways, it's writing a law that restricts people from being able to make money. Which just,
Yeah.
Yeah, there is, I mean, there's an incentive for folks that work a full career. If you start at age 20, and you know,
if you're
work
in a
your,
situation
work
where
up to the minimum age, which is, I don't know, late 40s or something, you have another 20 years of productivity left, and,
and you're being restricted.
yeah. Well, I think what you see a lot of, you see a lot of folks moving out of state. Deal with fire chiefs all the time. You know, guys will retire here and go to Massachusetts, and, because they can work full-time down there, they cross the state line.
Tony?
I think if I had to retire this year, even with a vested retirement, you know, pension coming in, I would probably have to worry about making ends meet. And if this law was in effect, it would impact us negatively. It'd leave us with a position that we'd have a difficult time filling. And that person would be drawing their pension from the state, whether they were working here or not. Now, maybe them working keeps another person out that would be paying into the system, but if we couldn't fill the position anyways, they're not gonna be getting their dues. So I don't see the harm there in letting that person work for us.
Exactly.
And we benefit from the skills that we couldn't otherwise acquire for what we can afford.
I mean, I would say it's got something to do too with like the trustees of the plan doing their fiduciary responsibility and saying, like you said earlier, Chris, they're looking at only this much is coming in when it should be this much. But again, to get skilled people, you're not gonna find the real skilled people to come looking to start a new career or leave jobs that they're in to come to different towns, I don't think.
So would we like to suggest that Chris start to draft something that kind of speaks to the impact of, the impact on small towns such as ours, but, maybe kind of take the time as well while he's doing that to do a little more thinking and research on it? And then we can handle all of that through via email?
I think that makes
Okay.
I don't know what town it was, but at the training session there, one of the towns was saying, I think 3/4 of their people that are working in town are all retirees, because they can't find anybody,
Yep,
so,
well, we've been through that.
It's tough for the small towns.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. What else, Chris?
I think we can probably go to general business. I got stuff that kind of floats all over the place, so.
Okay.
Do you have on your agenda we sent you a letter from the recreation director, looking for,
toddler gym, updating the
yep.
equipment.
I don't know if that made the agenda or just your package.
We have it in the
but-
packet, but not,
Okay.
yeah.
This doesn't really have anything to do with year end, it's a revolving fund, but you have to approve any expenses from it. We run a toddler gym program 1 or 2 mornings a week, and I don't know if you've happened to come across it, but some of the gear's getting tired, and they'd like to add a couple pieces and replace some things out of the rec revolving fund. Folks pay a few bucks each time they come. We track these fee-based programs independently. They all run through the revolving fund, but we have kind of I wouldn't say it's to the penny, but it's pretty good tracking of summer camp versus something like this, or
Yep.
martial arts, all those things that run through there. So this is generating some revenue. It's not a big money center for us, but the rec department's looking for the authorization to spend about $600 on new equipment, hoping to generate a little bit more buzz for the program.
Need a motion?
Yeah. Unless anybody, do you guys have any questions or anything for Chris?
I move that we allow the rec department to expend this money to improve the program and update the equipment.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
While we're on rec department, I'm gonna just make the general statement. I was in the office on Friday and was handed a manila envelope with a bunch of handmade Christmas cards from the rec department kids. And they wanna know if I'd distribute them. I said I'd be happy to. And that's the type of thing they do, and a lot of the people I've given them to, I still have a few to hand out. They were very, very happy and impressed that that the rec department would be thinking of that sort of thing and do it for them, so.
It was for veterans, right, Charlie?
For veterans, yes, and so that attaboy to Courtney and Sam for that effort.
That's fantastic.
Very well accepted.
Fantastic. Next.
Okay, let's see, I also sent you something on our phone service. Any questions or concerns about that? Probably sent you more than you want, but
Give us the Reader's Digest version.
Reader's Digest version, I'd like to switch us from, I'd like to walk away from the hardware that we have in a closet up here in the front of the building, move all our phone service to Comcast, voice over internet, get us out of the business of owning phone equipment and spend about the same amount of money as we're spending now What we have is, it works. We can't really take advantage of all that it might do. It's finicky and requires service sometimes that we can't really figure the thing out. And
Wasn't the town clerk's phone down for a couple of days or something like that?
we had, well, I think we're through that. I punched a hole in a wall and ran some wire and, got around a thing, and we're okay there now. But this is where phone service is going. You may even have it at home by now. You may be not using old school copper. We don't really use voicemail that much. It's so the phones can't even keep track of what time it is. Anytime we have any kind of change of anything, we usually have to pay somebody to come and make the thing work for us. This has been on my list for a long time. It's not a crisis. We're getting along okay with what we have, but our current provider, who we've been with for several years, it's been bought, and that company got bought, and that company got bought. The parent company of the whole thing sued the town recently over a piddly amount of utility assessments, and it ticked me off, so I started shopping for phone service. But the bottom line is we can spend about the same amount of money for the next 3 years and get good service improvements, get away from the risk of something going wrong with our hardware. If we switch to this model, if we don't have a big infrastructure in a closet somewhere, we have handsets and nothing else, and if we have trouble with a handset, we just call them and they send us a new one, and we send the old one back for no money. So
What's the difference in, so what drives the change in 2021?
So that's the hard part, and that's why I brought it to you to begin with. This is a 3-year contract, essentially. It's a commitment like you'd make with your internet provider at home, same idea. It's baked, there's a bunch of promotions baked in.
Yeah.
Pretty typical Comcast maneuvering of, front load the discounts, and then when you're not looking,
Yeah.
jack the price,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we have some idea what that year 4 price would be, and if we make a switch, then we're basically forcing ourselves to go shopping again in 3 years. Go back to Comcast and say, what kind of promotion do you want to offer me this time, or do I need to shop around for somebody else? So there's,
When you show the 2018 to 2020 number, is
that's
that,
3 years combined.
that's 3 years combined, it's not a per year? Okay,
Correct.
all right, great, got it.
Yeah, I tried to compare them all apples to apples, and that's the best way to do it.
Well, that might not be a bad thing, though, to shop it again in 3 years. I mean,
No, the market's really changing pretty quickly, so,
even with the cable at home or whatever, you tell Comcast, I'm gonna go DirecTV, I'm gonna do, next thing you know, they're calling you saying, well, what can we do to keep you? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
they're matching, you find out your neighbor's just getting the service, and you say, yeah, where was this when I got mine, and now they wanna talk to you again.
Yep. Yeah, I don't want to set myself up or anybody else up to play that game in 3 years, but that's the trade-off.
It's
I think-
frustrating dealing with Comcast a lot, but they do provide good service.
Yeah. And as a consumer, they drive me crazy, but as a business customer, they've been pretty good to us here. We don't have much in the way of trouble, so.
Chris, didn't you say that in 2018 we've got to renegotiate the cable franchise?
Yeah, but that's really, by federal law, that's a very narrow process, and you can't muddle those two things. No, I checked that, and, you can't do much. That franchise negotiation is pretty narrow. You can't even talk about what channel's on which package.
Comcast takes care of Nottingham, and there's no other providers to do anything, so all you can do is negotiate the best you can, and hopefully you can.
Competition.
Yeah.
So it says you're holding on to 2 copper lines still?
Yep.
Is that, well, let me ask, what does Comcast say about how they handle the fax machines? Because those, you can fax over IP, but,
That's what's staying on copper.
oh, it is, okay.
And we'll have voice capability on those, so that if we'll have fax service both on this side of the building and the PD on copper. Those will also serve as fallback voice numbers in the event that Comcast goes down, but Fairpoint does not in a storm.
Right.
You'll be able to call we'll be able to call out on a landline out of the building, and we can use that as an inbound voice number for select audiences if we need to in a crisis.
Right.
Yep.
And you were talking about using, Skype and such, in the future, but do we have the capacity on our internet service in this building to support?
We'll have to evaluate that when that time comes. I think most of our stuff is 1 gig right now. We'd need faster service coming in probably.
Right, that's what I'm talking about,
But within the building, we probably do, but that's just one option. In a few years, we could look at that. You look at what, Microsoft and Google are both starting to package software like an Office suite with a voice service. That's where that market is heading. It's pretty spendy right now, so I didn't want to make that big jump. I'm hoping that in 3 years, some of our other network infrastructure is going to change at the same time, so that opens up,
Right,
maybe another jump then, but
right,
I don't have that good a crystal ball.
yeah. Well, but you're right, that whole market is in flux right now as they're repackaging services and trying things out, so it's probably better to look at that option in 3 years.
So what do you need from us, Chris?
Just consent. I mean, this is something, if not for that year 4 price spike, it's the kind of thing that I would typically just do.
Yeah.
But where it is kind of setting up some headaches in 3 years, I just wanted to make sure you were all comfortable with it.
Any concerns or objections? No?
Okay.
Tyler, Charlene? No? Okay,
Okay.
you got it.
All right, other year-end things, we're gonna finish the year well under budget.
Even with the greater,
Yep.
it's good.
Yep.
Where did we save that
Yeah.
we hadn't?
It's kind of a spattering of things. We've been better staffed, but we've still had vacancies in different places. Couple of our kind of project-based things came in lighter. It's really a hodgepodge. There's no one single obvious spot that saved a whole ton of money, which is great.
And that was on the operating budget.
Yes, that's, that one warrant article operating budget item.
Yeah.
I'm just flipping through to see if I'm missing any big ticket numbers. Health insurance and retirement and all that stuff that is pegged to full-time head count. Anytime you have a vacancy, it spreads across lots of lines.
Right,
So,
right.
that's a bunch of it. The change in the building inspector position and all those, there's some money there. And let's see, what else is big? Some heat and electric. Insurance deductibles. There's no single line item that's 10 grand under, I don't think. It's just a
That concerns me very much. That's one of my pet peeves, is having too much surplus at the end of the year.
yeah, it's,
Because it all
means we
affects the
didn't
tax
budget
rate.
right in some places too.
Yeah.
That's the other.
I mean,
Is this the
last
highest
couple of years, it's been.
Fuel
we've
is
had-
another one that,
Has it been this high in recent years, though?
yeah, this is a smaller surplus than we finished
Okay.
16 with.
Okay,
Fuel's a big one.
We need to look at these budget lines a little harder and see where we can take a little bit out,
yep,
because
bring our red
yeah, when
beans.
you're appropriating the money, it affects the tax rate, whether you spend it or not.
Yep,
Yep.
agreed.
So we finished the year, we've got
So
room
let
to
me
do.
just say something,
Yeah.
though, like, Charlie's point is well taken, but if we can look back at like the last 3 years or something like that to see if there are any commonalities versus just looking at this year.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if we can look back,
I agree.
So look and see if
There were any
historically we've
particular
been
trends.
over budgeting for fuel or
yeah,
sand.
exactly, exactly, yep.
Yeah.
I know employees and benefits is always a biggie, and that's one of the biggest costs.
Yeah,
But that should be easy to track, easier. Some of the other ones, you gotta go line by line, but that's been my complaint about the school budget, year after year. They always have a $400,000 to $600,000 surplus, and it's like, why?
yeah, I agree with you, Charlie.
Well, on a $12 million budget, that's,
5%.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, but on ours, it's like 10%.
Yeah, ours will be 8 or 9, I think, by the end of the year, yeah. So what, a couple things that we're doing is we're gonna made a couple of really kind of smaller purchases out of this year's money and taking things out of next year's budget. Some equipment for the police department, the fire department, a couple of pumps for the fire department. So those are one for one, take it out of one year, take it out of the next. And we're pushing our 2018 budget down closer to this year's budget by doing that. We won't get there, but it'll help. Some other options that we have, things that we've talked about, things that we could do this is closer to wants than needs, but the security upgrades to the town clerk's office. I don't know if we have time to get a full-blown bid process together for that work. We could probably contract with Gary Anderson, who's done almost everything in this building for the last few years, and encumber that money from this year and take it out of next year's budget. Speed that work up a little bit, maybe. That is just a shell game of taking out of one year and putting it in the next. That's an option that's available to us. I think he'd probably be willing to do that. We've talked about, but have not put in the budget yet, numeric keypads for the locks in this building, replacing keys with digits. We could do that for the first price I've seen is around $6,000, I think. We might be able to do it on the super cheap, but that's not money we'd budgeted to spend this year or next yet. I wouldn't rush off and do it without checking in with you. If you want to see it in the budget for next year, if you want to wait, we can make do with what we're doing. It's just one of those things that's been on the radar. And
I think those two things are things that we should do. I definitely do. It's short money, essentially. I think we should be paying attention to the security of people who are in the building, particularly when they're here late at night and there's one individual here. I think we should be paying attention to it. And I think the numeric locks is something we should be doing as well, because we have people coming and going, people who serve positions and then leave, and we've got keys all over the place. So I definitely think the numeric locks is something we should pursue as well.
Are those auditable?
not for that price. We can do it, we might be able to do it for even a couple thousand with really simple, limited number of passcode systems. For the 6,000, and we can do the front door too with that, which is that's a big one. In thinking about the $6,000 one is kind of the middle of the pack. It's not Wi-Fi, you can't log into the computer and change the passwords, you can't
How you do it?
log all that stuff. It's a manual.
Right at the
When you
device.
said, is it
programming.
audited, what does that mean?
Auditable, meaning when it comes to building security, you want to be able to go back and look at who came in when.
Okay.
And if it's not auditable in that fashion, then it's really no different than the physical key. If there's a rogue key out there and somebody's coming in at night, you don't know.
I think if
So-
we're gonna do it, we should do it right. We should do it that way.
We looked at that, at the kind of middle of the road version because of the camera improvements we made this year. We actually have visibility of all the doors that we're talking about doing this with, so.
Right.
And which is recorded.
Right.
So if you have that, then it's almost as good as an audited, not quite, you still have to go back
Yeah.
and look at the video. The next step up, that auditable version, is some multiple of that 6,000 price. I said, don't even bother.
Yeah.
Because I thought that was a little rich for our blood, but I can go find it if you.
I think it's worth looking into. I mean, if you envision a scenario where an unknown face that nobody recognizes comes in with a code,
Right.
you want to know whose code they used.
Right,
Yeah, but in that scenario, everybody has their own code?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's manageable.
Well, it's no different than
Centrally
everybody
managed.
having a key,
Yeah.
but now at least you know if something,
But if somebody leaves or is no longer in office, you can change the code
You can
or
change the
deactivate.
code.
Right, or deactivate it, or,
where
you
now
know,
we
not
don't know
reassign
if
it.
they've got another key floating around.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
thing.
So, yeah, it'll cost a little more money, but I think you want that central manageability and auditability.
So Chris, what you're asking is, given the surplus for the end of the year, do we want to move on these, to use some of that surplus? And I would say yes, I don't know what others think.
I say yes.
I agree on that, but we need to have like a proposal,
Yes.
in order to encumber the funds from
Yes.
this year, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the one that we have, we could probably get the work done in this year, so it wouldn't require an encumbrance. It would be
Really?
yeah. It's not, that middle of the line, see you guys,
Thanks for coming
Come on,
in.
guys.
that middle of the line system is a relatively straightforward implementation. The fancier, networked and all that stuff, that would be more of a contract encumbrance, do the work when you can later. There's no reason to rush it, but we can, in order to make encumbering necessary, you have to not be able to spend the money during the year you're in. So
Right.
that's something we could get done this year.
What do you guys think about the middle of the road versus the auditable systems?
So I think the audible system is what I would want. That's what I would lean towards. But
What do you guys, Charlie, Tyler?
I guess we have to see what the price would be for an audible system.
Yeah, exactly, and would there be I'm thinking about maintenance costs annually. Is the maintenance on the auditable system gonna be considerably more than the?
There may be some subscription stuff to that, there may be an ongoing cost to that, this
Licensing or something.
licensing or something like that. This kind of middle of the road thing is an upfront and then nothing else. It's, sustaining after that, unless something breaks or whatever.
We have the same at my work, I mean, it works great.
Yeah, I've dealt with them before, they're good, but they're spendy, that's the.
Yeah, I've been in a couple of situations with that, and it's like, I don't mind spending a little bit extra to get the more functionality and
Yeah.
something that is.
Okay, Chris, if you can just kind of give us a better idea of what the.
Okay, yep.
I'll be honest, I'm maybe a little cheaper. I'm more towards the middle of the road because I think you match up the codes with the video. But let's take a look at the.
Okay,
what the numbers are.
I'll get you some auditable pricing.
Let's also separate the two because it was, there's that one, but the other one was contracting Gary Anderson for the security upgrade.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that one?
do it.
I think that's
I haven't talked to Gary about it, so I'll
Right.
get to that
Well,
point,
sure.
but he
Sure,
gave me
it's
the
Gary
estimate
or
to begin
somebody
with, so.
else.
Yeah. But
Is that just for the glass and
counters
the,
and the-
okay,
yeah.
not the door?
Correct.
Okay.
yeah,
There'd be
Yeah,
different
that's-
vendors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm good with that.
I-
put a petition up and that,
Yep.
security.
Yeah,
type.
door and
Yeah,
glass and, okay,
yeah, let's
That's
do that.
something that the whole building needs to look at, really.
okay.
Been very lucky, but,
Well, we're chipping away at it.
Northwood, I walked
Yeah.
into Northwood.
Yeah,
Town
the
Hall,
cameras
it's
have been,
like locked down.
cameras have been, that was a good move this year.
they trying to get into the PD?
Yeah, yeah, it's like crazy.
So just to clarify for the minutes, you're authorizing the counter and glass installation, but not the door for the town clerk, or all of the upgrades for the town clerk's office?
The way that Chris has described it, it's town clerk security upgrades.
Yes, that's the counter and,
Yeah.
that stuff.
Which is different than the security system.
Right?
Yeah,
Got that.
Okay.
All right, what else, Chris?
Okay, working, now, you'll note that this is in priority order.
Yes.
The last thing is a request from some of our office staff for standing desks.
Yes. I mean, there's enough data out there to show that you shouldn't be sitting for too long, you shouldn't be standing for too long.
Sitting is the new
I have one at
smoking.
work and,
Sitting is the new smoking, he said.
yeah,
Price?
yeah.
The entry point for you can sit at it sometimes, or you can lift it up and at your existing desk, stand at it or sit at it. The best ones we've seen are about 500 a desk, for the Versa desk.
Okay, and how many desks are we talking?
4, 5. I haven't polled the whole building. I didn't want
It
to
hooks
dangle
up.
that and then take it away, so.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I'm just
obviously,
thinking about buying like one of them floor jacks, put it under their desk and they can pump.
And they get the exercise from pumping.
Gary Anderson,
We've, you may have noticed, we finagled one of our employees with we repurposed another thing so that she could stand up, and she's loving it, so.
All right,
Anyway,
can you put them in the budget?
you want them in the budget for next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, unless you guys want to try to do it before the end of the year.
do it before the end of the year.
Before the end of the year?
We get the money, let's spend it.
We got a surplus.
It's a benefit to the employees, it helps create better working conditions.
Okay.
And it's a healthier situation than sitting down for 8 hours.
Okay, so let's do it for everybody but Dawn.
Okay.
I quit.
Okay, that's enough of that. That's all I have on.
Well, one more thing,
Oh, yes,
yeah.
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did everybody see the email from Bonnie Winona, town moderator
The
today,
election officers,
about the increase for the election officers?
I don't disagree with what she said. I'm not sure I agree with the amount to be increased.
Yeah, the one thing I asked Chris to go and look at is, I know we discussed this I think a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Asked Chris to go back and take a look at that.
It wasn't the officers, it was the.
Just the
Just
workers.
the workers.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
the ballot clerks.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Can you guys just give, I've asked Chris to take a look at kind of like the history of that, and he'll get that with all of us, then can everybody just share your thoughts and opinions with him, and then he can factor that into the budget as appropriate? Okay?
Okay. Yeah, we have time on that one.
Yeah.
We're still
Yeah.
in budget development.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that Bonnie had sent it to us and acknowledge that we received and are considering.
I mean, they do work hard.
Well, and it's become tougher and tougher to do that job. There's more and more, rules, laws that you have to.
I guess I'm looking, I'd be more apt to give them $1 an hour raise instead of 2, right off the bat. Look at it again next year. But,
I'll get you
no,
the
I don't disagree that there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Over the last 5, 6 years,
Yeah.
it's changed a lot.
Okay,
So what else, anything else on the 2018 budget? Do you want to see, we got to get the fire chief in to talk to you.
Right.
Anybody else that you want to see to talk nitty gritty on, or get
Police
into
department
anything?
wasn't asking for anything unusual, library's not.
Yep.
was there something in the minutes about somebody else wanted someone else to come in? Tony, you said you wanted to meet with the police department, it looked like.
Oh, you wanted to ask him about some kind of.
Technology.
I mean, I don't know if that's more of a CIP-related thing, but I just wanted to get his sense of what his horizon is for, whether or not or when he wants to start looking at the new technology. Or if he wants to put together a whatever kind of reserve fund to build up to to these things when he's ready to go, because they're not gonna be cheap.
But that's not something that he needs for this budget
It
cycle.
wouldn't be for this year ahead.
So, I mean, we could, like, if he's coming in for another reason, could we
Yeah,
also have
absolutely.
that?
That's a good idea.
Yep.
Good idea.
Yeah, don't pull him in just for that.
Okay. All right, so fire department's the only one? Fire chief, and we'll do that at the next.
Yeah, the 8th is gonna fill up, but, that's important, so I'll make that happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Plan on the 8th being a late night, so, but it's that time of year, so.
What did I say? It wasn't the middle of it.
I just gotta check my calendar.
In the fire department mainly because, he's asked, just so we,
Yeah, we have two big items in the fire department. One's the truck, the other one's the breathing apparatus.
Right.
We've gotta replace our air tanks in 18 and 19, so, those are gonna be the two single biggest items on the warrant in all likelihood in dollar terms, depending on what we do with roads, so,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
All right, so I've been unkind to you with the homework that I've been sending about road stuff, and giving you plenty of time to do it, but we need to plan a discussion on that. You've got residents that are looking for that to come back, and we're gonna have some work to do before town meeting, if and when you decide to do anything related to that, so.
Yep.
I guess the question to you is, when do you want to do that, and do you need anything else, or do you want me to just stop sending you things?
I think it's a pretty big discussion. I appreciate you sending stuff, so I'm not gonna say don't stop sending. Is it, like if we put that on the agenda for the 8th, is that too big of a topic? And should we maybe be looking at having a meeting, just kind of like a separate, even a brief meeting to talk about that?
That would be fine. You've got 1/8 and 1/22. 1/15 is MLK Day, or whatever New Hampshire calls it this week.
Civil Rights Day.
Civil Rights Day. It's not to say that you couldn't meet that night. It's a town holiday, but that doesn't matter. The 22nd is relatively open, but is also getting toward the end of the budget process, so.
Right. What do you guys think?
so the road discussion is just us initially, and then,
I would think so.
yeah, okay.
Right. That's what we agreed to, right?
Well, you've told, or I have told on your behalf, a lot of people that you will be discussing it again. I think that will inspire public comment, whenever you choose to make that easy, but, you probably have some to do amongst yourselves, whether you do that before or after the public comment.
What's shaping up for the agenda on the 8th?
The Conservation Commission has two public hearings on easements and purchases out of the fund, and if we can get the chief talk truck and breathing apparatus, we would do that then.
Yeah,
And any other budget progress that.
okay.
But we could do it that night. It's a big night. That's all.
What do you guys think?
It'll take
Cal?
some time, we're gonna have to do it.
One of the things that came up, I don't have that in front of me, the cost of like, Ledge Farm Road. Yeah. Wasn't the high end 650 grand to do that one?
The
Do
high
about a
end
mile?
with full contingency and,
Right.
yeah, all of that, yeah.
What if we did half of that? Would the price change, could we get half of it done for half that amount?
You can split it into 2 years. There'd be a small price increase, because you have to mobilize twice and that kind of stuff. You pay a little bit more.
Other than that, I was wondering if there was any considerable.
There are a couple other risks, one of them being inflation of asphalt, which is a big wild card in the pricing of this
Right.
stuff. And the second is, do you not get a year or two authorization? Do you not get the appropriation at a town meeting? It's two different votes, so that's a wild card that you don't know. There's no, I talked with the engineer about it, the best way is probably to do everything on half of it and then everything on the other half of it, rather than go halfway
Yes.
and then
yeah.
finish in the second year, so.
I agree.
There's a lot of reasons not to do it that way.
Yeah.
It may save a few bucks, but there are a lot of reasons not to do it that way. Because you might not save a lot of bucks, so.
So what do you think about if we put it on the agenda for the 8th, and then you can balance priority of topics between the 8th and the 22nd? Right?
Well, if you set that discussion, if you want me to tell the public that you're gonna be doing that, we've kind of promised a bunch of people we'd tell them when to come back, and I wanna hold to that, but,
What are the 2 conservation easements? Is it, I mean, 'cause
they're,
those
they're
discussions
not, they're
can
not,
last.
they're not controversial, they're not big dollars. There's, Garland Road, Shippey Rice,
Oh, yeah.
and, Case Road, Ternyanko.
Okay, and they're just like
They're both
the
short money.
survey fees
Yeah,
stuff.
it's
Yeah,
25
okay.
grand
So it's
total.
not like Selt coming in and we.
No,
this
I mean, you could go down that road, but I don't think it's necessary. We also figured since the commission will be here, it's a commission and select board public hearing. You haven't spoken to them in 6 months or so, so you're due for an update with them, so.
Does that have to be on the 8th, or can we do that on the 22nd?
You can do that in April, it doesn't, all of that combined could probably be a half an hour if you
Yeah.
put your mind to it, unless there's a lot of public comment. It's a public hearing, so.
Yeah.
You gotta,
Garland Road, there could be issues. They can, we'll be here all night.
serving land on Garland Road.
I'm just wondering, they might need, there might be a timing issue for the.
Yeah, I didn't know.
the money, so.
No, we need, they need to get the hearing and the approvals and all that
We do
rolling,
the
so.
hearing and then we do the powwow meeting with them. some
We can
other-
push that if you
Yeah,
want.
let's push that.
Okay.
All right, so, so what we're saying is January 8th, we'll talk about the roads, and Chris can let people know that we're gonna be talking about it.
You don't have to make decisions that night, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not trying to force you into anything, but
Yeah.
I suspect this is gonna be a process more than an event, so.
Okay. Yeah, okay. The other thing I'll say, though, is with the other stuff that you sent in terms of the samples you've sent from other towns about planning, I really like the direction you're going there.
Okay, I have one more thing to send you on that, but,
Yeah, I really like where you're headed there. Yeah,
Give us this.
yeah, and I think I'm gonna ask you to use some of that SB 38 highway money for that next year, so there's no budget impact. It fits perfectly with that. We have some left from Lakeview.
Okay. yeah,
And I think we can roll with that. I'm working on 2 vendor scenarios right now, so that's where I'm headed with that.
excellent.
Okay, anything else on 2018 budget stuff? One other idea I picked up somewhere in the last month or so, is the concept, some towns are creating expendable trust funds for winter road maintenance. Putting a little bit of money aside for bad snow years, and trying to even that out of, how
Yep,
we really spend the first 3 or 4 months of the year just kind of responding to what the weather does, and that tells us what we can do with the rest of the year's road projects.
right.
This year in 2017, we had a real rough first winter and pulled back on our overlay as a result. That was the one big item in the budget that we underspent in that, we probably held back too much. But a trust fund could allow you to put money aside in the good year, or put money aside every year and then only use it in the bad years, and take away that sacrificing maintenance for snow plowing. That
Right.
we're really forced to do that
Yep,
many years, where you get scared in March because you've had a real rough winter, and you look, and you got another winter to get through in November and December, and you hold back on things like overlay, to the detriment of the road network in the long run, so.
Yeah.
That's just another concept I throw at you, that if you wanna think about that, and, it would take a while to build it up to the point where it would really be effective, but.
So I kind of like the idea because I think it helps with budgeting and evening out the leveling, the budget cycle. I think if we were to do it, my thought is that we put a cap on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think then we're not going, well, salt costs are this, or we think the costs are gonna be that, we don't know how many snowstorms, and I think it takes some of that guesstimating that ends up where we are with a, $300,000 at the end of the year, kind of, I think that could eliminate some of that. And
Yeah, and we really struggle in the budget process to budget the highway department. You want to look at multiple years and what did we do,
Right.
and this was a bad year and this was a good year, but that's a really difficult estimating process. I don't think we do it that well. I think we're really kind of looking short and say, well, this is what we did last year and it was a good year, so
Yeah.
this is what we'll do next year.
Yeah.
And
How was Robin Peter to pay Paul there?
Yeah.
Moving stuff around within the budget.
yeah.
I mean, it
So this
works,
will-
but it's not a good process.
Over time, you would hope that it would pull back the annual budget for snow removal.
Right, right.
Maybe not a lot, but a little bit. And that would help on those surplus years, but.
I was gonna say, that'll give you a cushion against the unknowns of the weather, the uncertainties.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it would definitely help with budgeting process. Where, would you replenish it from year-end surplus? From year to year, or would we ask the voters?
Do we even have a mechanism we can do that? I don't know that towns have that. The school districts do, but I don't know that towns have that.
We did.
Well, can't you do a warrant that says, what they do is they say, if there's a surplus, then we're going to put $5,000 in X.
Yeah, I haven't seen towns do that, and I'm amazed I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll look into that. You could also, I didn't thought this through, but you could pull back the operating budget and take money out of the fund balance and put it into a trust fund that you could have access to. You do that all at once, and
Yeah.
that's another way to get to it. But I'll put some more thought into that and come back with
Yeah.
something more specific. I just wanted to take your temperature
Okay.
on the concept.
are you thinking, if everybody feels that this is a good thing to do, are you thinking of proposing that at town meeting this year, or?
You might get to the point where you're comfortable doing that. I wasn't thinking of big dollars right up front, so. But let me do a little more homework and we'll think about it some more.
Yeah, if we're gonna do that, we need to have, we need to build a really good case as to why it's
Yeah,
the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slush fund. It's a fund literally for slush, but, so you want to be careful with that kind of stuff, but, I don't know, I just threw it out there.
It still has a dedicated purpose, so it's limited scope, I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the state call it rainy day fund.
Yeah,
There you go.
Yeah.
yeah.
Snowy day fund.
Snowy day
Snowy
fund.
day fun.
Yeah, like, you could game it in all kinds of ways. That's why you gotta be careful with that, but.
Could you, just food for thought, could we word it to allow us to use it for non-winter events, like, another Mother's Day flood that wipes out a bridge or something?
Yeah, you can word it and you can word it
I
all
think it
kinds of
would
ways.
be in our best interest to do it that way, so then if there was some kind
Right.
of, emergency.
We don't have any other mechanism for that in place now.
No, not without a special town meeting or something. What did you do during the Mother's Day flood? Did you move a bunch of money around?
I don't even remember.
Yeah. Well, with something like a winter, whatever you call it, a snowplow cushion fund,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, you could, if you set it up right, you could, if you had a flood event, you could take money out of one pocket and bring it back in and say, this is my snow money and this is my flood money. So you could, it's not great, but you could get through it.
Okay. Let's.
Okay, well, I got your
let's
temperature
explore
on it.
Yeah.
We'll explore some more.
Not convinced yet, but,
I hear you.
yeah,
I'm not either, I just
yeah,
threw it out there.
that's fine.
Okay. I think that is it for budget, finance, road stuff. That's all I had, anyway.
Anybody have any other questions for Chris in that area that he hasn't touched on yet? great, thank you, Chris. Town report dedications.
Yes, it's time to figure out if you want to do that and to whom. And we don't have to have that discussion publicly. If you want to keep it a surprise or a secret.
Okay, do we,
It was easy last year, huh?
was,
I think because we had people retiring.
Yeah.
is there a short list? Because I know there were some names that were brought up before.
We have
Maybe
a
I'm just
couple
reverting
of,
back to
we have a
last
couple
year.
of retirees. We've had one or two passings of people that
They should be mentioned.
I know have been either large in town or work for the town.
Can you put the short list
But,
together?
yeah,
and send it to us?
do we have one of those started already?
No.
No,
I only
okay.
had one person
Okay.
in mind.
Well, there's one obvious one,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But if you guys could put a short list together and
Yeah,
if
and
everybody
be- yeah, be
take a
thinking
look
on it
at
so
and
we
if there's
can,
any
get-
one that you think should be on it.
Yeah.
What are you doing? When I say short list, it doesn't have to just be short people.
Bum.
By the way.
Oh, honey, nice.
All right,
Okay.
that's it for, is there anything else, you guys? Before we go into non-public?
I'm out.
We had talked a couple times before about digitizing town records. I've been chewing on ideas and techniques, processes for accomplishing that, but it does require some equipment. We talked about a storage array, a dedicated storage array, not a server, but a RAID, a standalone NAS device, they call it. Should we get, do you want me to get something a little more detailed in writing that we can look at and decide if we want to put that in as a line item for next year, or?
I don't think it's a bad thing for us to start thinking about. You know, we can decide whether we think it's this year or next year, but it's
Right.
not a bad thing for us to at least start thinking about.
Yeah, I would almost put it at for next year and not
Yeah.
try to rush it.
Yeah,
But I think, yeah. I
for
think-
purposes of education of the
For
board.
18 or 19?
19,
19,
yeah.
okay.
I don't know, I mean,
Yeah.
let's take a look at what's involved with.
We're really close to being ready to go. I think
Okay.
that storage array is that one missing piece that
Okay.
would give us the green light to,
Okay, let's put that on the agenda to talk about.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. That would be the conclusion of the public meeting. We do have some business to take care of in non-public. And barring no further business, we will come out of non-public and adjourn the meeting. And so we need or would you say C, Chris?
Personnel, B?
B?
Is that B?
Yeah.
B.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
need a motion to go into non-public with B.
I'll make a motion that we enter into non-public per RSA 91-A:3 2B.
Second.
Roll call, all in favor?
Aye, Brown.
Aye, Eden.
I. Anderson.
Aye, Danis.
All right, Tony.
Who was the second on that? Sorry.
Tyler
Tyler
was.
was.